recording or live streaming or anything?
We're live
Just
streaming
started.
right now. I started it.
Cool.
All right, guys, could I get a motion to open the meeting?
Motion to open the meeting.
Second.
Second it. Okay, we are now in meeting. Hey guys, welcome back to SGA. We hope you guys had a restful break. We're gonna start the meeting off with reports from Executive Board and SGA branch reports. So Sam, take it away.
Can I take attendance real quick?
It's attendance.
Yes. Oh, yeah, sorry.
All right. Sam, Mehek, Addie,
Here.
Will.
Here.
All right. Ananya.
Here.
All right. And Julia is no longer with us. Cece. Do we have a Cece? All right. Minor. Kidai is no longer with us. JJ. All right. We're off to a good start.
No, JJ's here.
Okay. JJ's here. Alrighty. Nathan.
Yeah.
Hey, y'all.
Talal.
Here.
Megan.
Hello.
Veda. Do we have a Veda? All right. Suba.
Here.
Veda has stuff going on. I don't know if he texted you.
All right. Grace.
Here.
Angela.
Here.
Anthony.
Here.
Anthony. Yes. Okay. Talia.
Here.
Mariano.
Here.
Chinette. Chinette said he'd be gone for class. All right. Karen.
Here.
Eric. Obi.
Here.
All right. Kobe.
Here.
Raj.
Here.
Harvey.
Here.
Ireland.
Here.
If you're a freshman, just unmute yourself right now so you don't have to worry about it. And then Elena,
Here.
Jenny,
Here.
Ben.
Here.
All right. In the future, if you hear your class being called, just unmute yourself ahead of time so it goes quicker. All right. Cool. Thank you. We're good to go. Meeting is all yours, Sam.
All right, go ahead, Sam.
Right. All right. Yeah. So, first of all, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming to our first GBM of the semester, and our first Blue Jay Tuesday of the semester. I know you're all just, burning up with excitement. So welcome to that. In terms of my updates, so for tuition, the tuition resolution that we passed at our last GBM, a lot has been going on. We had me, Kobe, Ben, Jenny, Elena, Kobe, Ben, Jenna, Elena, and Harvey had a meeting with Provost Kumar, Alana Shanahan, Smita, and Carolyn a couple weeks ago. We talked about the resolution. We discussed sort of our reasoning for it. The basic TLDR is that we weren't able to get sort of any commitment to tuition reduction grants to everyone. There were 3 action items that came out of the meeting. The first is they're working on an email to send to students explaining sort of the removal of the tuition reduction, the 10% tuition reduction from the fall. Basically, we asked for that as one of a few things they should do in terms of just explaining, like how the university is making sure that our tuition money is worth it this semester, essentially with all of the measures that they're taking to make campus safe for people this semester in terms of the tents, in terms of testing, things like that. So we actually looked over that email, a few of us last week, and gave some edits on that, and it's getting sent back to communications right now. The second thing is they left open the possibility of some sort of increased financial aid or tuition reduction mechanism for certain students who can't come back to Baltimore for reasons outside of their control. In order to further that, they asked us to gather testimony from students who can't come back on why they can't come back, which we did. And we sent that testimony to the Office of the Provost with a memo summarizing the results. We are still waiting to hear back on that, but hopefully we do. And the third thing is we discussed having some sort of either GBM talk with Tom McDermott from Financial Aid, or possibly some sort of larger town hall or event that students could go to, because a lot of students have been having issues with financial aid. We've communicated that, but we discussed the possibility of giving students the opportunity to communicate that directly to him. So that's sort of in the works. In terms of other things, we did one-on-ones with every SGA member. I hope you all enjoyed. We all came up with SGA New Year's resolutions. In terms of ethics board work, I met with the work group to plan out what that vetting board, or whatever the final title ends up being, will look like, which we'll talk about more during his IA presentation. We're also currently scheduling a meeting with Jess Oros to talk about sort of the criteria that our vetting board will be using and everyone else will be using to evaluate candidates. And lastly, applications are open for that. So if you want to apply, look out for some information from us about that coming soon. Additionally, I helped out with our election day stuff a little bit. Grace will talk more about that. We sent out an update email. We held a chair's president's training. Mehek will talk a little bit more about that. I've been in touch with administrators regarding COVID stuff with my regular meetings with them. And I met with Maureen Marsh to talk about our meeting with the Student Life Committee of the Board of Trustees, which I will also be talking about more in new business. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Sam. So I guess I'm next. So a lot of the things Sam talked about, I helped him on. I also went to the tuition reduction meeting with the freshman and Provost Kumar. And we also had a class council / class president meeting over the winter intersession time. We just kind of talked about how chairs and co-chairs and presidents should conduct themselves in meetings, some pointers, some tips. A lot of it was what Julia and Cece had wrote in their previous bill. So props to you guys. We really integrated that into our training. And what else? Yes, we had the one-on-one meetings. Thank you guys for coming to them. It was great talking to all of you. And we are also planning for having the SGA Spring Retreat. I send out the when to meet in the Slack. So please fill that out by Thursday, just so we can start coordinating things during that time, because we're gonna have the SLI office and other faculty members help. So we really need you guys to fill out as soon as possible so we can start contacting people. And if you do have any conflicts with that weekend, just text me and we can figure something out for you. Other than that, I think that's it actually. So with that, I'm gonna give it to Addie, our treasurer.
Hey y'all. Okay, so happy to see everybody again. So SAC and Finance have been working on getting the spring budgets out. So we initially extended the deadline by a week. So we should have those finished by for submissions. So we should have our deliberations and everything finished by the end of this week, early next week at the latest. Oh yeah, Nathan, sorry, I've been in Georgia for a little bit. I got lost my train of thought. So we're almost done with them all. Groups will get notes about each line by line item that they requested, detailing what our decision is. And then also another update about budgets in general. We will be doing a package with Liquid Fifth again, like we did last semester. And then we're looking into a package for video editing and photography, so that we can do just one kind of fee, and then groups can use that. And then we will also be evaluating monthly grants. So after the budgets go out, monthly grants can start up. And basically what we'll be looking for is if there's for instance, shipping costs. Right now we are not doing shipping costs because we want to see exact estimates based on if students are back on campus, if not. So you can request all that through a monthly grant. And then if restrictions change, for COVID, or the university policies with COVID change at some point, and we are able to have bigger events or something, we're also going to be evaluating those in monthly grants if those things occur later on in the semester. So yeah, thank you for your patience, and we'll just be working to get those out to everyone.
All right, I believe that means it's my turn. So I've moved into campus. I was having some family stuff, as y'all know about. My dad's getting out of the hospital hopefully within this week, next week at the absolute latest. So I've kind of been dealing with that, along with tech issues and some other things. So hopefully this semester I'll be able to do more. I have a couple plans. I've been doing research, talking to other universities about Hispanic Latinx caucus. This is all unofficial, but that should be active this semester. I have my first meeting with CMC. I thought this Thursday, but we're going to have to move it because of recruitment. So hopefully they can do a little presentation about what our plans are for the semester next GBM, or absolute latest the GBM after that. Outside of CMC, you guys will hear about this later, but we're going to try to be stricter on attendance. So currently I have everybody's attendance records up for class councils, committee councils, and committees, and then general GBM. So I will be going through there, making sure everyone's filling them out. And then from this point on, I will be checking this a lot more often, and there will be, you guys will hear about this later, but basically attendance will be more strict. I will be sending out the emails instead of Mehek for, just like the agenda things on Sunday. So don't be surprised when it comes from a Gmail address. I typically use my Gmail for all that, unless I have to use the Hopkins one. There was one more thing I had to say, but I don't remember. Oh, I'm updating the website, the SLI website. They're taking down their SGA page, so we're getting the information from that and putting it on our, SGA page. However, I'm still working on getting our CMC member permission for it. I got distracted with moving, but that will hopefully be done by next GBM. I will promise it by then. That's all for me.
Thank you, Brianna. Okay, next we have the LHAC committee open input period. This is based on the bill that we passed last semester at the end. Currently, we have nothing to report for this standing committee because our committee still needs to meet, and we're going to meet either Wednesday or Sunday, I think, this week. But we will get together and think of the questions and send out the questionnaire and everything for the open input period for the students. And that's all we have to report for today. With that, we're going to move on to class council reports. So we're going to start with seniors. So Will.
Yep, so with our 2 unfortunate vacancies, we are currently crafting the application and email for that. Our timeline is to send out our email probably tomorrow and then give them a week to put in submissions. So then by the following week, we will have confirmations ready after we conduct interviews. So February 9th is our contingent GBM date for them to be confirmed. So that's it for us.
Thank you, Will. Next we have juniors, so Nathan.
Hey y'all. So not that much to report. We've got our mass design competition that's happening right now, and we've got some talk is leading a really great Valentine's Day event. So hopefully we'll have more on that soon.
Thank you, Nathan. Next we have sophomores, so Anthony.
Yeah, we haven't met, but we've been talking about a potential Valentine's Day event that I think will be pretty fun. So hopefully more to report in the coming weeks.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Next we have freshmen, so Kobe.
We've spent a lot of time dealing with a lot of freshman COVID stuff, as all of you have probably heard. We've also been starting to work on a new project maybe regarding accessibility. Not for sure on the full, outline structure of that yet, but a lot of good things.
Thank you, Kobe. We're going to move on to committee reports. So we're going to start with academic affairs, Senator Chanda and Senator Zhang.
So Veda had an emergency and Cece had an excuse at Suba. I see you're volunteering. Thank you.
I can give a quick update. So Academic Affairs has been meeting over winter break and intersession with the Vice Deans of Education. So we're working on a couple of things. So curriculum committees, not sure about KSAS, but Whiting has approved the addition of a systems engineering major from the curriculum committee and the approval of a renovation to the environmental engineering majors. And then also we have been working with the vice deans to get a more formal grievance system in place. So our committee has created an informal version through Hopkins group, and we're currently working on legislation to call for a more formal version as well.
Thank you, Suba. Next we're going to have civic engagement, so Senator Wang.
Hi. So yeah, we just set up our next meeting, our recurring meeting. So we'll have this on Sundays. And really this semester, I'm really working on how to get the full community engaged. This last semester was mostly focused on the election. And since a lot of that is over now, we're really excited to hear about new projects that other committee members and especially younger committee members have.
All right, thank you, Grace. Next, we have finance, so Senator Ha.
Hello. Addie pretty much said a lot of what I wanted to say, but finance and SAC have been meeting over intersession, and we're almost done with our budgets. Hopefully it'll be out by the end of this week. In our notes, I'll just reiterate a little bit of what Addie said. In our notes, which will be on campus groups will see like why we made certain decisions, and hopefully we will send out an email notifying groups that all their budgets will be on campus groups by the end of this week. And if groups have any problems, they can always, or need something else that they didn't request in their annual grant or semester grant, they can always come to us for monthly grants. That's pretty much it. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. Next, we have health, safety, and sustainability, so Senator Chen and Senator Tai.
Hello. So we just had our first meeting on yesterday on Monday night for HSS, and we just talked about some future initiatives, and we will first and foremost keep the Instagram account active by posting at least one post, preferably COVID related, each week. And we also connected with Jackie Stone, the director of TRU, to set up bi-weekly meetings to discuss future opportunities for collaboration. So that's it.
All right, thank you, JJ. Next, we have internal affairs, so President Cho.
Yep, so we have not had a need to meet yet. However, I am currently drafting the vetting committee for the ethics board bill for that. So once I'm done drafting that, we will vote on that upcoming soon, and then that will probably show up at our next GBM. So that's it for us.
Thanks, Bill. And next we have student org, so Senator Kalahasti and Senator Chen.
Hey everyone, we have not met yet either, but mostly just sorting out logistical things like making sure our meetings are scheduled and that our weekly check-ins with Carolyn are on. So our first Carolyn check-in will be this week and our first meeting next week. So we should have more to report when we come back.
Awesome, thank you guys. Next we have student services, President Singleton.
Okay, so we met at the beginning of January to vote on the Pen Pal task force members, like associated with the handwritten Homewood bill. And then also more recently, we met this past Sunday and today before the meeting to kind of talk about some like officer positions and different programs that we're working on in the upcoming semester. So far, I think Angela and I have a meeting to talk about free printing on Friday. And then also, I know that some of you guys are coming back to campus and like getting your belongings from the warehouse and stuff. And then if anything's lost, you're going through like the reimbursement process. So I would ask you guys, like, as you're going through that or as you're hearing stuff about that, like sharing it with me or other people in the committee, because I want to get more feedback on that and like see how that's going so that we can share that with them as we continue to work with them on that. But besides that, I think that's about it.
Cool, thank you, Anthony. Next, we have caucus reports. So we're going to start with the Black Caucus. Senator Oninanya.
Hey, everyone. We still haven't gotten a chance to meet yet, but we've just been working on the contact docs for like alumni as well as other Black student orgs, and just been keeping tabs with like the ASA and BSU president for the, Black student experience videos, as well as the showcase coming up.
Cool, thank you. Next, we have the Hispanic and Latinx Caucus, Executive Secretary Soldatelli.
All right, sorry, I'm writing down what Obi said super quick. Give me 1 second. Okay, so we weren't active last semester due to COVID and other issues and not having members on the committee, but we confirmed chair and co-chair. We have 3 SGA members. Again, if anybody's interested in joining, feel free to join. And we will hopefully be meeting within the next 2 weeks. I will be sending a text or an email about that to send out the information to the rest of the school, gauge interests, figure out events, and then also possibly talk to alumni and have possibly an alumni networking event, kind of like the mock interview nights, but specifically for our type of minority, you know. Again, if anyone wants to help with that, just let me know.
Cool, thank you. And then we have the Women and Gender Minorities Caucus and I think Senator Rieger is going to give us the update.
Yeah, so we haven't met since before break, so there's not too much going on. We're just helping out with the Greek Life Special Forum and continuing our projects from last semester, which is getting blog reviewers for the Sexual Violence Survivor website, working on the Sorrow Transformative Justice panel, and partnering with HSS for health resource guides.
Awesome, thank you. And then for our last report, we're gonna do our advisor report. So Carolyn.
Hey y'all, I have 3 things. First, I sent an email earlier this month and I think once or twice in December about the Baltimore College Town Student Governance Summit. I heard back from the Baltimore College Town staff that only 1 Hopkins student signed up for it. So I would love to see that we have some representation at that. Again, it's a really good networking opportunity to meet other student government association leaders from across the city. It's from 1 to 3 on Saturday. And I will drop all of this in the chat, what I'm saying today. The next thing is that Calvin, late last week, I think, sent an email to all of our student organization leaders about the COVID-19 training for folks who want to host events on campus. For SGA, as leaders of more than half of our student organizations and arguably some of the top folks as far as student leadership is concerned on our campus, we would love it if all of you took both of those trainings so that you understand what we are asking of other student leaders to do on our campus. You will have a user tag added to your name once you complete both of those trainings and submit the information. I will drop a copy of that email in the chat after this as well. And then the last thing is, and I hope you're excited about it, we're doing virtual lighting of the quads on Saturday evening. Everything will be on the homepage of Hopkins Group. So similar to what we did for Hoptoberfest, I think it was Hoptoberfest. So I hope y'all check it out and tell people about it. And I'm super excited for this spring semester and getting to engage with you all again in a new light. So many of you are back in town, so I'm excited.
Thank you, Carolyn. With that, we're gonna move into our new business. So we have 3 things on the agenda. The first thing is the Board of Trustee talk, and the second is the Daniel's dinner topic discussion. Sam is leading both, so he's just gonna give you a quick breakdown of what they are and how they're different. So when we discuss, we can see like the differences. So Sam, the floor is yours.
This is the fun part, I promise. But yeah, basically, just to give you all a little bit of background, I emailed all this information to you, so hopefully you should have, had this in your heads in advance. But what we're going to be talking about today first is topics for our discussion with the Student Life Committee of the Board of Trustees. So to give you all some background on what this is and how different than our annual Daniel's dinner. So for a long time, since I was a sophomore, we've been working on getting more interaction with the Board of Trustees. And this is really, the most successful we've been. It is an opportunity for us to talk with the Student Life Committee of the Board of Trustees, which is, the Board of Trustees, for those of you who don't know, is basically, it's a board of people who kind of have the final say over decisions at Hopkins. Most of that decision making is delegated to President Daniels, but they're the ones who make the big decisions on things like tuition, on things like fossil fuel divestment, etc. So it's really great whenever we get to interact with them. So what I've set up, kind of, taking into account like work we've done in the past on this, is a opportunity to talk with the people on the Student Life Committee of the Board of Trustees, which is the committee that deals with pretty much anything, regarding undergraduates or aspects of our experience. And what it's going to be is for the first 15 or so minutes, we're going to be, essentially sharing like who we are as an organization, what we've been up to, etc. And for the latter half of it, 15 minutes, it might run over. we're going to be talking about, like whatever topic or topics we want to discuss with them that we think is important to have a conversation with them about. So the purpose of what we're going to be discussing during GBM is essentially ideas for what we should be talking about with them. And I just want to frame this sort of like in relation to the Daniels meeting. So traditionally, SGA has a dinner at President Daniels' house on campus every year. Obviously, with COVID, we cannot go to his house and have dinner, but we are still going to be having the discussion. So what we usually do for those discussions is we pick 3 topics, and we have, an amount of time to discuss each of those topics with them. And in the past, like, as I said in the Slack, those have been things like, there have been things like increased civic engagement and voting on campus, the private police force, the student center. So sort of like big overarching themes of the year that we think is important to have the chance to discuss with him. The last thing really to note is that well, 2 things really. The first is that, we have considerably more time to discuss these topics at the Daniels dinner or the Daniels meeting this year. We're going to have about 15 or so minutes for each topic. Whereas at the Student Life Committee meeting, we're going to have about maybe 15 minutes, and we might end up having less than that depending on how the conversation goes. So we're going to be able to talk about things in more depth at the Daniels meeting. In addition, there's differences in attendance at the Student Life Committee meeting. It's not going to be all of us. It's going to be exec and a few other people. We're still working out the logistical details, but it's still important for all of us to have a conversation on that topic because we're going to be representing all of SGA, and this is a really important opportunity to discuss things with trustees that we don't usually have this sort of access to. Whereas the Daniels event, all of us are going to be there. So with that in mind, what we're going to do first is have a conversation about topics that we think make sense to talk about at the Student Life Committee meeting. And this topic or topics can be the same or different as the topics we discuss at the Daniels event. So hopefully you all have some things in mind. And yeah, I was thinking we could just do a moderated caucus and hear what everybody has to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Sam. So we're gonna start with the Board of Trustees talk just because it's the first thing on the agenda. So would anyone like to motion for a moderated caucus? You can also motion for a round robin. A round robin is when we go through all the senators, like we call out their name and then they like give us like an idea or like say whatever, and then it like you just have to go through everyone who's like a senator. By moderated caucus, you kind of already have a speakers list like by raising your hand.
Yeah, and then one more thing quickly. So we are going to be voting too on each of the topics that we end up talking about, that we end up deciding to talk about at our next GBM. So the purpose of this conversation is to really like get ideas out there, discuss those ideas, so we can have an idea of what options are on the table at next GBM. So this is sort of brainstorming, sort of having a discussion, debating. So yeah.
So I really recommend a round robin just to kind of get like ideas flowing, even if it's like a super quick, like 30-second round robin. You just throw out some ideas, and if you guys are like scared, like it's just like ideas that you think that like students would be interested about. Like you could literally say COVID and then go into like a smaller topic. You can say like it's really just anything that you would think that should change for students. Like you could think along the lines of like what you ran on your platform for SGA. But yeah, so anyone can go ahead and motion.
Motion for a 45-second round robin.
Could I get a second?
Seconded.
All right, all in favor of a 45-second round robin, please go to the participants tab and hit the yes or no check mark. Oh, I was so confused for a second because I don't have it underneath because I updated it, but now I see it's working. Okay.
Wait, I don't see it either.
You don't see it either?
You have to click on reactions on the bottom.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Which is dumb.
Very.
Wait, this sucks because it goes away after like 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. I was so okay. We're gonna change this up super quickly. In the chat box, just send like a yes or a no. Is that okay?
We could also do the raise hand
So
function.
does the raise hand work? Does it not go away?
Does it stay
It
up
doesn't.
though?
Oh,
Yes,
yes,
yes.
it does. Okay.
Yeah, raise hand stays up.
Okay, do the raise hand for a yes. If you're not raising.
Why would they get rid of that feature? This is so.
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right. Looks like we have gotten multiple yeses and more than quorum. Okay, so, or more than half. So we are now in a red robin. So I'm just gonna start by calling off my list as it goes down. So, Raj, you're up first. Go ahead.
How do I put my hand down? Okay, there we go. Yeah. One thing for me, I don't know if like this is just really specific to me, but I really like engagement, and I think that having a sort of presence from the university you attend and from your peers is either just as important or even more important to ensuring the proper education of a student. So I really want to have some like virtual engagement. I remember doing this a lot in my high school when the pandemic hit. Whether this could be like Kahoots or like game shows or just like a lot of admin sponsored university ran activities that everyone could meet up with. I know they had like the mixed straws thing, but that was only for freshmen. And yeah, just like something that can like help bring the campus together in this like time. I don't want to go over time, but yeah, like just some sort of like virtual engagement. I think that's really important for me.
Thank you, Raj. Next we have, oh my God, all the hands went away. Okay, Ananya.
Yeah, I think one thing I really want to know is I think COVID shakes up a lot of questions in terms of virtual accessibility for students and how we build that community. And I think a lot of the questions that come from that around mental health are ones that are true on our campus, even without COVID, but that COVID has made a lot more important in terms of isolation from other students, cutthroatness, competitiveness, and those types of conversations. So I would love to have a conversation, and maybe this isn't the right platform for this, but this was really the biggest thing I was thinking about is like, how do we go forward with rebuilding that community and making that community stronger post-COVID when we have in-person spaces? Because it's not Hopkins is phenomenal when it comes to community building and having community space for students, but I think that COVID makes it even more apparent that there's a lot of gaps that cause greater isolation and mental harm.
Thank you, Ananya. Next we have Anthony Singleton.
I just want to echo what Raj said. Like, I think that engagement and like the school spirit is like super important, and I think that there's definitely more we can do to build that kind of community and culture on campus.
Okay, thank you, Anthony. Next we have Angela.
I was thinking, like, I know how we do like the diversity and inclusion like seminars like required for everyone, but I was thinking that we could do something to like kind of integrate like when you have to deal with like microaggressions or things like that, when like someone's in a position of power over you, and like trainings on like how to deal with things like that, and maybe like also like a diversity like training for like professors and things, because like sometimes like people still say things that could come off as a microaggression.
Thank you, Angela. I really like that idea. Next we have Ben.
I didn't put myself down for the thing.
Oh, in a round robin, we call every senator.
Oh, I thought it was a moderated caucus. I think talking about the stuff with the belongings. I know it wasn't really my grade, so I don't have the full picture, but I know a lot of people were really unhappy about like when they're came to camp, or they like a lot of their belongings were missing when they were packed up in the spring.
All right, cool. Thank you, Ben. Next we have Elena.
think the freshman class council is working on a lot of sort of disability and accessibility things. And one of the things that I was interested in was trying to make sure that professors are using captions and stuff and just anything that can make it more accessible, the virtual learning experience more accessible.
Thank you, Elena. Next we have, sorry, my list is like moving around. Okay, it's back to normal. Grace.
I think, yeah, to echo a lot of people's, I think like morale and just like general like spirit, I think we can definitely work on. Just because like we're on campus, but it just feels so weird to walk around and not see anyone walk around. So it doesn't seem really different than last semester. And really just having more things to bond people, even remotely or like social distantly. I think it's really important, especially this semester.
Thank you, Grace. Next we have Harvey.
Excellent. So one thing that I have spent practically the entirety of my fall semester term with SGA working on was expanding SDS accommodations in a way such that professors would acknowledge and implement them at any point in the semester. Because, I mean, for legal reasons, they're obligated to do so, and that was something that wasn't being communicated effectively to both students or professors. So there was certainly a disjunction there. However, following up from that, I think that, and this definitely has overlap with Daniel's dinner as well, but I think there needs to be a wider discussion on some of the trainings that are used for professors in not just implementing accommodations, but acknowledging the reasons behind it. Because I know that when I was taking some courses where I had to have my accommodations implemented, it felt there was some professors had no idea why, like they had never had this for a student before, and others thought that it was a burden or were hesitant to do so. So I think that that culturally needs to be adjusted in one way or another.
Thank you, Harvey. Next we have Ireland.
So similar to Harvey, I was hoping that we would talk about accessibility related things, except mine is more related to neurodivergence accessibility issues, where I do need accommodations for things, and a lot of people experience this, but like professors don't see our need for accommodations, and they kind of just assume we're being lazy, and I would like that to be addressed and like have like staff, I don't know, get more training on like not doing stuff like that and being more accommodating to us.
All right, thank you, Ireland. Next we have Jenny.
I think something I want to probably expanding like academic support, because I feel like especially this semester, like last semester, a lot of students were like struggling to find out like how they can access help, especially with like difficult classes. So like maybe like having more like pilots that like touch on different subjects, or also having more like private tutors.
Thank you, Jenny. Next we have JJ.
So something I think is really important is echoing what Raj said about school spirit. Yeah, I think it's besides like having a school spirit and like the idea of feeling a school pride even in a virtual environment. I think it's more important to for Hopkins to provide some sort of platform for students to engage with each other and build a community even in a virtual environment. And it's especially important when like some activities and classes are happening in person, but there are still a lot of people who decide to stay home and who have to do everything remotely. Like there should be some effort to ensure that everyone has a similar degree of access to everything, and they can all engage in building the Hopkins community. That's it.
Thank you, JJ. Next, we have Karen.
I agree with everyone's point about community building. I think, especially right now during COVID, there aren't really many common spaces where small groups of people can meet up. And right now, basically, we're all stuck in our room. So maybe like the university could set up more spaces for this and maybe somehow incorporate the people that are remote into this too.
Thank you, Karen. Next, we have Kobe.
Hi, so this is something that I haven't experienced because I'm not on campus, but I saw someone talking about how there are some issues with accommodations for physical disabilities, like lack of elevators functioning and also ramps. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Kale Hyder kind of posted a little paragraph about it, and I can share that later, but I feel like that's something that we should be discussing since everyone's starting to come back to campus and everything.
All right, thank you, Kobe. Next, we have Mariano.
Yeah, so I kind of just want to like echo what Harvey and Ireland said in terms of like accommodations, and I guess just more awareness on like the behalf of like professors understanding, and it definitely helps with making the transition like virtual much better. Personally, last semester I didn't have like any like trouble or challenges like with my professors and my accommodations, but I understand that it can get like hard. So yeah, just more accessibility, I guess, and ADA compliance.
Thank you, Kobe. And then next we have Megan.
Kind of echoing what some people were saying before about the community. I don't know about you guys, but I recently heard about like the freshmen and how some of them lost their dorm contracts. And on one hand, I like really feel bad for them because they lost their senior year of high school, and also they're currently kind of losing their freshman year of college. But then on the other hand, it's also like it's COVID, like we can't do anything about it. We just have to do it. But maybe somehow finding a middle ground of letting I think what Jenny was saying earlier of like letting them have these small areas to gather. For example, like putting out those colorful chairs on the quads as it gets warmer, so that at least they have some sort of outlet to look forward to, rather than there being nothing at all except for like testing, which is honestly the most communal thing that is happening at the moment. So that we can help make each other feel not so sad.
Thank you, Megan. Next we have Nathan.
Yeah, so kind of going off of this idea of community building, I was thinking, especially in regards to the resolutions we passed, also going towards greater engagement with Baltimore. And I kind of brought this up in the thread that we had earlier. And the other thing I wanted to echo what Kobe said about Kale's post, and I've actually been talking to him a little bit afterwards, just about ADA compliance in our physical spaces. I think that's coming more into light as we're coming back to campus, or it's getting reinvigorated, those discussions. And that would be something that we would probably need to go near board level for. So I think especially trying to think about what things we can do at the board level and what things we can maybe accomplish lower. I think that might be important.
Thank you, Nathan. Next we have Obi.
I think in an effort to like just work on course standardization, we should just try to make sure like more of the COVID era measures stay implemented for like the long term, such as, you know, recorded lectures and longer time frames, because people are still going to continue to, you know, be absent from class or get sick. Like even now, there should still just be easier ways and more like thorough reviews when making sure courses are being like accommodating to students rather than just leaving it to professors' discrepancies.
Thank you, Obi. Next we have Suba.
I wanted to bring up some more COVID concerns. So definitely accommodations for how like people at home and what that's already been talked about, but my focus would be more on like if we're gonna have increase people on campus this semester and then up in the fall, like there needs to be a greater support for people who contract COVID, or like I don't know how how willing they would be to like get everyone vaccines, or if that's already in the topic, but even like isolation housing and everything, the food is terrible. Apparently the water isn't running well and stuff like that. So if you're gonna have people come back to campus and like stay and also be okay while they're here, you need to have a safe place for them to be.
Thank you, Suba. Next we have Talal.
Yeah, I wanted to echo what Suba said about isolation housing. My roommate ended up in isolation housing, and he was sending me pictures. It was horrible. The food was horrible. The heating was really bad, which is definitely an issue because that could exacerbate your symptoms. And then, yeah, other than that, something that I came across recently was I wanted to connect with alumni because I wanted to sort of just figure out my career path. And I was referred to One Hop through the Life Design Lab, and I reached out to some. It didn't seem that there were many alumni on the site at all, and the ones I reached out to didn't get back to me because I guess they don't check it. So I guess it's just sort of figuring out a better way for alumni to connect with students, or just sort of maybe pushing One Hop more towards alumni. Another thing would be, I think it should be maybe not required, but like heavily recommended for all professors to do asynchronous lectures. In biochem last semester, the biochem I took, she would record every single lecture, but then she just wouldn't post them all, which was really annoying. And last thing would be, this would probably be something after COVID, but increasing like transportation and like the Blue Jay shuttle range. This is something we brought up in SGA before, but yeah, Blue Jay shuttles used to be able to go like to the harbor and stuff. So yeah, I think that'd be cool if it was expanded. It'd help students, interact with Baltimore more and, get out of the Hopkins bubble.
Thank you, Talal. Next we have Talia.
Yeah, I wanted to echo what people were saying earlier about more spaces on campus, because I do think it's like pretty limited right now. And when we're talking about like so many people coming back, like spaces are important. And I feel like a lot of people are just like wandering around campus, like not knowing really where to go or what to do. So that would be helpful. And then I think also like pushing more mental health resources, especially for students who are at home and very like isolated, is important. And I think there's like mental health workshops and stuff like that, but like I don't really hear about them really. And so I think just making people aware that those resources are there, and then maybe even like expanding them, that's a good idea. And then I think also, I think we talked about this a little last semester, but people had some not great experiences with Silver Cloud, which is like the mental health resources for students that are like at home. And so like definitely making sure that those are meeting their needs. That's really important. This is a difficult time for everyone. So yeah.
Thanks, Talia. And then last but not least, I called in everyone but Will, right?
Yep.
Okay. Will, you're up?
So yeah, so one thing I want to add is like maybe more just like oh god, maybe I'm about to sound really fucking stupid, but like I feel like there has not been a very clear guideline / repercussions like guidelines sent out. If correct me if I'm wrong, where like it should be like XYZ offenses are made. Well, oh wait, you know what, they did send it. I don't know, maybe that should just be more clear, because I feel like there already have been a lot of people who have been like kicked off or like in trouble. And like I'm seeing a lot of discrepancies. Like I know of like a certain RA in Commons, who I won't say his name, or well, okay, sorry, there's an RA who like has been writing people up like very aggressively and has been like having them kicked off campus, which is really unfair in my opinion. So there's that. I just feel like there's a little bit of inconsistency with how things are being enforced. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing I wanted to talk about is just echoing the academic accommodations. And because I like personally experienced this with like my friend, like he actually got dismissed last semester and then I had to help him get that reversed. And that was like a super like big thing because his professors like weren't recognized his own circumstances as like as like qualifying for getting an incomplete or like extra time on his deadlines or whatever. So I think professors need to be held more accountable / like they need to understand that they can't just run things however they want. So yeah, the COVID guidelines and conduct and things like and repercussions, and then professors, and then everyone else did was also awesome. So yeah.
Thank you, Will. All right. I think that's everyone. So Sam, what do you want to do now? Do we have to vote on these today or is it by next week?
No, absolutely not. I mean, well, first of all, I know Brianna wanted to talk. We could have exec participate too. And then yeah, after that, we're not going to vote on this today. We just, this is to have a conversation to get ideas down for us to later, formalize work on over the week and then vote on next week. So Brianna, Addie, Mehek, if any of you want to participate in the round robin, and then I could cap it off, and then we could either have another moderated caucus around robin or move on to something else.
Yeah, so I just wanted to let you guys know that we had 21 people who participated, not including exec, and counting it up really briefly, it looks like we have between 7 and 10 like unique ideas. A lot of them, like the accessibility in the community, can be broken down further, but there's also some that don't really fit in those categories. So I'll probably try to come up with a list of those so we can vote on them. And then personally, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Obi who talked about the standardization of classes, because having some classes, not having any ideas if your classes are synchronous or asynchronous, like I work, it would be really, really helpful if even live classes were recorded. Personally, I think every class should be recorded, and that should just continue on into the future if possible, because especially for people with disabilities, it's kind of nice to be able to go back and watch class, because sometimes, like your Orgo professor kind of zooms through things. So I think having just general rules that all professors follow, because I know people are so confused, like, do I need this textbook? Is this class recorded? Do I have to go to the section? And we'll be like, oh, well, this Orgo professor says this, but this Orgo professor says that. Just kind of having a baseline that everybody goes off of, I feel like would make school easier. And then with the community areas, I know we have like the COVID tents and all of that stuff, but maybe things for upperclassmen, because I know a lot of the stuff is for freshmen. I'm an FYM, like I've seen the freshmen hanging out, whatever. But like upperclassmen, I don't know what necessarily we're doing, because I know a lot of us are being COVID conscious, so we don't want to hang out in dorms, but we also can't really access a lot of the on-campus areas or that kind of stuff. So when we do start, trying to build a community, make sure it's not just individual years, it's also like within years. When I talked to my FYM, they said it was really hard to meet upperclassmen and make friendships with upperclassmen, kind of get that mentor ability. So possibly doing something like that. And then on a general bigger scale, I just want to point out that like we've had 2 anti-Semitic attacks at Hopkins like within the past month. I think this might be something we want to bring up with the Board of Trustees, just like why does it keep happening? And I don't know, I feel like I only heard about it from my friends, and then all the information started coming out first. Anyways, so mentioning that, I think that kind of goes along with the diversity training and kind of expanding the influence there. And then that also kind of fits in with the enforcement of consequences and that type of thing, because honestly, like, I don't know what would happen if a student on campus did that. Like, would they get expelled? What's the steps there? And I know a lot of freshmen don't as well. Not to call you out, freshmen, but that's my stuff. Give me 1 second.
I'll go.
Go ahead.
Building off of Brianna, yeah, I think a thing that can tie in with that is like the university's communication to the student body and how community messages go out, and like what's in them, who they go to. I just think that there needs to be a process for all of that. And I think the students should be like informed of that process and kind of, in the know when things happen on campus, and, we're all students, we should all kind of know what's going on. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Will, you have your hand raised. Was there something you want to say?
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just wanted to hear maybe from Sam or anyone their thoughts about just like bigger framing about because I feel like of like talking about what we want to separate between like the Board of Trustees talk and the President Daniels thing, like is like what we discussed today like sufficient slash what we had in mind, or are there overarching things that we might have missed? Or just like in general, like that separation, I just want to clarify.
Sam will talk about this after we end the round robin, when we move into the Daniel's dinner discussion.
Okay, perfect.
I have one thing to add, Sam. For the Board of Trustees, I really feel like one of the topics that like I kind of heard was like about like teachers and stuff, and I really feel like we should have like diversity and inclusion trainings for professors that are maybe more in depth, and in that we can tie in like standardization of like classes, and like kind of tie in academics. But I feel like having that as kind of an overarching theme for the Board of Trustees could be like a good way to encompass a lot of like minute ideas that I've been hearing people like throw out. And then Sam, the floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you everybody for those ideas. So I'm gonna declare the round robin over, because I was not a part of it. So I'm just gonna, kind of give a summary of what we just talked about, and then we could, move from there. So a lot of these were great ideas. To kind of answer Will's question in terms of, what I think makes sense for Board of Trustees versus President Daniels. So, like I said earlier, some of these topics could be the same. I think some of these topics would make sense for President Daniels and wouldn't necessarily make sense for the Board of Trustees. Because, things like sort of like engagement, community, COVID, I think that's one that we could possibly have for the Board of Trustees. But, things like disability accommodations, those would be kind of more in President Daniels' wheelhouse. Also, things like academic support, engagement with Baltimore, those I think, and we could talk about this more in Daniel's discussion, a lot of those would make sense to bring up with Daniel's. One thing that I think would actually make a lot of sense to bring up with the trustees, given that they're the ones that are sort of in charge of money, things like, what we spend on financial aid, what we spend on everything else, is tuition, actually. I mean, I think that, well, first of all, to back up a little bit, so they're the ones that set tuition and they're the ones that decide tuition. So I think, one way to really utilize this conversation with the Board of Trustees would be to talk about sort of like, the financial experiences of a lot of students, because we've seen that the financial aid office has been pretty, at least from the testimony I've gotten, unsatisfactory in terms of meeting, one, like communicating with people, and two, in some cases, like sort of meeting the need that they have to be able to actually come back to campus. And then in addition to that, sort of just, talking about what people should be paying depending on where they are, because it is my impression right now, and that impression might be false, that there will possibly still be, some people that aren't able to come back in fall, and might still be having a virtual experience. And it might not happen this semester, but I really think that in the future, if you're not going to be on campus, then you should be able to opt out of paying for on-campus services. If you're not going to be in Baltimore benefiting from the tents or, the testing or any of that, then it doesn't make sense for that to be included in your tuition costs. So I think that that is something that would be worth discussing with the Board of Trustees. But yeah, in terms of how to, go forward with the conversation right now, so we did actually cover a lot of possible conversation topics with the Daniels dinner in that round robin that we just had, funnily enough. So what I think we might be able to do is have a couple of options. I think that I would recommend maybe that we could have a moderated caucus, just talking more in depth about maybe, which stuff we should bring up specifically at the Daniels dinner. We could have another round robin discussing what other ideas we might have for the Daniels dinner, but I think we might be round robined out. But if someone motions for it and someone else votes for it, then we'll do it. But yeah, anything like that I think would be a good idea. And this was definitely some great stuff. And we'll be in touch after this meeting in terms of next steps on that.
All right, so we're technically on to the second agenda item. So does anyone want to motion for, yes, Will, I see your hand is raised.
That was an accident. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Does anyone want a motion for a moderated caucus? It could be a quick one. if you want.
I'll motion for a moderated caucus, 30-second speaking times. How many in total? 3 minutes total. I'm not good at math.
Okay, so 3 minutes and 30-second speaking times. Kobe, since you motioned, you can start it if you would like.
Yeah, so I don't really have a lot to say other than just agreeing with Sam that I think that accessibility is something that we should bring up to Daniel since he is in control. He's the president of everything. And also, I really do think that just breaking down financial spending is something that just in general that we need to fix at Hopkins, or not necessarily fix, but go more in depth on.
Thank you, Kobe. Will, your hand is still up. I don't know if you're raising it to speak.
Was that, sorry. What?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to agree that I think that myself especially, I accidentally started talking about things that are more geared towards Ronnie President Daniels. And I think again, like I think the tuition thing is like the singular most like important thing because the Board of Trustees have such like wide sweeping like jurisdiction / authority. So that's just my thoughts.
Thank you, Will. Oh, that was a clapping hand emoji. Anyone else? No? Okay, if no one
Motion to close moderated caucus.
else, could I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of closing the moderated caucus, please go to the reactions thing and don't do the check mark because that goes away. Do a hand raise, please. Okay, we have more than half. So thank you guys. We have closed the moderated caucus. All right, up next on our agenda is the closed session. So to go into closed session, we need for someone to motion for it. So if anyone would like to motion for closed session, they can do that. And at that point, I would turn off our Facebook Live since it's only senators allowed. Senators and our advisor and exec board allowed in the meeting.
Motion for a closed session.
Could I get a second?
Quick question or point of information. Do we need to do advancing legislation or announcements before we close the session?
No.
Okay, thank you.
We can go back into open session for the other things. Could I get a second? Seconded. Okay. All in favor of closed session, please go to the, sorry, that's my alarm again. Please go to the reaction thing and do the like raise hand feature. All right, we have more than half, so thank you, Suba. We are now in closed session. So now I will turn off the Facebook Live. Okay, guys, we're back on Facebook live stream. So we're just going to continue on with our meeting. Now that we're done with our new business, we're going to move on to prospective business. So the first thing we have is advancing legislation. So if anyone has any advancing legislation they want to talk about, you can raise your hand. I see that a lot of people's hands are raised. I don't know if it's from before or, okay. But if you do have anything you want to say, you can just speak up now.
So in terms of advancing legislation, I know a lot of people mentioned issues with professors especially. So me and Beta are working on a resolution to kind of put a formal grievance form in place and not have it go through academic affairs, but officially through the university.
Cool, thank you, Suba. Grace and Nanya, are you guys still raising your hands? Or no? Okay. With that, we're gonna move to announcements. So if anyone has an announcement, I have one. please fill out the when to me on the Slack by Thursday. And when you're filling it out, kind of think about like having like a 3-hour kind of chunk in the when to meet, because that's probably how long our like spring retreat will be. It might be a little shorter, it might be like 2 to 3 hours, it might be like 2.5, but just like as a basis. Okay, Sam, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I only have one. So I just want to replug what Carolyn said about the Baltimore College Town Summit. Right now it is just me and Talia that are registered to attend. We'll have a great time with all of the other colleges. But if anybody else is interested, like again, this is a really great opportunity to, you know, one, like network with other SGAs and get to know people if you're into that. Two, learning more just, you know, about how other SGAs work. Like if you're interested in being an exec one day, or you're, you know, interested in continuing in SGA in any capacity, I would highly recommend coming to this because you can learn more about what other people do. And yeah, I will send the link somewhere. I'll send the link to everybody so you could sign up if you still haven't. Registration is still open, so strongly encourage people to attend. Let me know if you have any questions.
And then my announcement, freshmen, I hope you had a good orientation week. We worked hard on it. And if you were unable to go to a campus tour, I know at least one of you was, I will be doing makeup campus tours unofficially, but Brittany gave me permission, the orientation person. I'll be doing makeup campus tours if anybody wants to come, even if you're like a sophomore and just like forgot what campus was, or even if you're like Sam, I don't know. Whatever, I will be doing makeup campus tours, and also freshmen who are having issues with classes or something like that, or you need to make friends, please message me. I know it's hard being on campus. I've had a lot of people text me like very sad. So please communicate with me. I'm here for you. And Sam, go ahead. I know you have your 3.
So it might have been a slight exaggeration when I said I only had one announcement, but these two are actually important. So one, we are having someone from One Hop Mentoring come to our next GBM to get feedback about connecting with alumni. So, you know, that's something that we just want you to be aware of. So you could start, you know, maybe getting feedback from your peers, like thinking about what you want to talk about, because that'll be a really great opportunity to make sure that we can better interact with them. And the second thing is, I believe I might have mentioned this in some capacity, but the committee to establish principles for, you know, naming and renaming things on the Hopkins campus is going to be having a listening session with us either next week or in 2 weeks. So, you know, like, be on the lookout for that. Keep your ears up for feedback on that, gather feedback on that if you want, because that'll be a really great opportunity for us to sort of actualize that resolution we passed back in June about the Woodrow Wilson Fellowship, because this is the first step in, you know, renaming things that should be renamed. So yes, those are my second and third announcements.
Thank you, Sam. Does anyone else have an announcement? You can just raise your hand. If not, then we're gonna open to the public for public input. Anyone from the public here? Nope. Okay. That concludes our first meeting of our spring semester. Thank you guys all for coming. Trinat just came. Thank you, Trinat. Would someone like to motion to close the meeting?
Motion the meeting.
Okay. Could I get a second?
Second.
Okay, awesome. All in favor of closing the meeting, please go and raise your hand on the reactions thing. Okay, the meeting has closed.
Stay after if you want. That's another thing too. We are also, I mean, we've been doing